The following readings are from the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. Each week, we read from both scriptures as prescribed by Yoganandaji and his guru, Sri Yukteswarji, who was guided by Babaji to compare the two scriptures to show the same underlying truths between them. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. It is common for people to perceive themselves according to their present realities. When a person in ill health says, I am ill, few say, I am well. It is my body that is suffering. People in a low income bracket say, I am poor. Only the unusual person will say, though outward I live in poverty, inwardly I am wealthy. Thus, when it comes to moral and spiritual development, people commonly identify themselves with their weaknesses and their mistakes. They consider it almost a sign of humility to say, I am a sinner, though in effect, what this means is that they identify themselves with their sinfulness, not with the soul's power to transcend all limitations in God. The great masters, including Jesus Christ, have always emphasized the divine potential of mankind. To encourage us, they address us as children of the light, not of darkness. The Bible, in the Gospel of St. John, chapter 3, makes the point that our true home is not the mud of this earth, but the light of heaven. No man hath ascended up to heaven, it tells us, but him that came down from heaven. This passage continues, even so the Son of Man who is in heaven, emphasizing that Jesus, though he lived on earth, is perceived by the eye of wisdom as conscious, even in human form, of his true reality in heavenly spheres. The way to know God is to live in godly consciousness and not to bewail our imperfection and our distance from God. Jesus said, Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And the Bhagavad Gita says, Seekers of union with the Lord find him dwelling in their own hearts. But those who, lacking in wisdom, seek him with impure motives, cannot perceive him, however much they struggle to do so. If you want to know God, Paramahansa Yogananda said, live in the thought that you have him already. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Make me the eagle of practice. This is from Whispers from Eternity, a book of prayer poems by Paramahansa Yogananda. Make me an eagle of progress, soaring far above narrow lanes of bigotry. Call me to soar ever higher and higher, far above the clouds of earthly pettiness. With the sharp talons of my soul, I will tear at the little squabbling birds of misery which prey upon mankind. I will free my mind's skies from the buzzards of cynicism which prey on carcasses of dead hopes. I will soar on balanced wings of wholesome living high up into the finest regions of divine perception. High above the hurricanes of earthly preoccupation, I will soar higher and higher to those unimagined heights where thou alone dost dwell. Make me thy eagle of ever upward progress. As you know, I believe, each week we read from this book, Rays of the One Light, and Swamiji organized the topics, the subjects, in a, you could say, in a progression. In other words, starting in January with the nature of reality, the creation of this universe, you sort of need to start at the beginning, and so that's the beginning, and then going on from there into many other subjects, very important subjects. Really, it's a whole course spread out throughout the whole year, spread throughout the whole year of, in other words, we could, if it weren't done consciously, we might end up talking about the same things, repeating things without, and which is fine in itself. Everything bears repeating. We don't know these things until, as Sri Yukteswar said, we have assimilated the truth with our atoms, not with our eyes from reading, but with the atoms. So that takes quite a lot of assimilation. I mean, just imagine if you had to assimilate your food on the atomic level. I mean, it's enough if you can get it into your stomach, then the stomach does the rest. This is even deeper than our bones. So if we repeated certain topics too much, we might leave out other topics. That's the idea. In other words, so each subject is important and covers some new facet, some new aspect, some new face of truth. And so this one is very helpful. And really, the whole talk today could just be the title. We are children of the light. And just keeping that in mind, I am a child of the light. I am a child of the light. That can be so helpful and so effective for getting us through the doubts that we might have, or the troubles, or the worries, or anything. I'm a child of the light. We have this line in the Festival of Light, which is a ceremony that we do in America and Europe every Sunday as part of the satsang. And in India, we do it regularly, but it would be nice to do it more regularly. It has a lot of English words to it, and we don't yet have it translated. So that's part of why we don't do it every single week. But it was Swamiji's intention that we do. And it's a very powerful ceremony. One of the lines in the ceremony, thank you. Right now, I am a child of the water. Ah, very good. Thank you. I have some kind of allergy thing going on. So, it was very instructive for Prasanna to say, very few people will say, though outwardly my body is suffering from allergies, inwardly I am well. So I thought, yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Prasanna. Good point. So, there's a line in the Festival of Light, O children of light, forsake the darkness and know that forever you and he are one. Raise your hands and chanting Om. Ask that the power of God replenish you in body, mind, and soul. And so, it's a whole thing that we affirm every week. Unfortunately, there was one famous slip up where one of the ministers, acharyas, stood up and said, "Oh, children of darkness, forsake the light." People sort of, you can if you want to. I'm not signing up for that. And we've just finished building this temple in the middle of a whole series of renovations and repairs to another Ananda temple. One of the ministers said on the Sunday, raise your hands and chanting Om, ask that the power of God refurbish you in body, mind, and soul. And so these things can happen and they're fun. But our starting place has to be that we are children of the light. Otherwise, it's just too difficult. You've got everything stacked against you. I'm so bad. Everyone tells me so. I feel that way. It must be true. It's not true. One reason you know it's not true is because you feel bad about being bad. I mean, if you really were bad, wouldn't you be thrilled to be bad? Gosh, I'm so evil. Nice job. I hurt that person. They cried forever. It was delicious. No, you feel, ugh, I don't want that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that. Otherwise, we would just take delight in evil. So even the fact that we want to be more, want to be better, feel peace when we're happy, feel a sense of purity when we behave in the right way, that's the proof right there. I mean, when we're hungry, we need to eat. When we're sad, we need to open ourselves to God. When we hurt someone, we need to apologize. Have you had that experience where you couldn't apologize right away? And then finally, when you did, oh, hopefully the other person felt that way too. The apology, after all, is for them. Just saying, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. Man, I feel better. No, it's for the other person. But we also have that sense of, As Haridas Ji, the leader of Ananda Bangalore with his wife Roma, he said, sometimes it's not always possible to apologize in the moment. He said, but I do a healing prayer for the person and whom I've hurt, and I try to give to them more energy than I took away. And so, of course, we can always do that. If our apology isn't accepted, we should think about how it might be. But after a certain point, you can only apologize so many times. It's up to the other person if they want to accept it and when. But we should also see what we can do to make up for that. Is there, can we slip them an extra dosa or something and say, sorry, inora dosa. So the that, as I said, has to be the starting point. We're children of the light. And it's interesting because the scriptures tell us we're children of the light. And we might ask, well, why do they have to say so? There's so many things the scriptures don't say, like they don't talk much about gravity or that the fact that the sun rises. Did you know there's this thing called the sun and it comes up in the morning? You don't need to, because even at 1 day old, you can kind of look out the hospital window and kind of, oh, look at that, there's something there. Some things are just self-evident. They're a part of our reality. And so why does this need to be said? Because, as I said earlier, there are a lot of voices saying we are not children of the light. We are children of the darkness. Whose voice is the loudest in that? Maya. Not our own. Not, that one uncle who's so difficult. No, it is Maya's voice trying to do that. You could think of Maya as a warden of a prison, the one who keeps all the people in jail. And the warden gets a little extra money for every day that every prisoner is in jail. Not a true warden, but this one. And so Maya is motivated to keep us trapped. And so anytime anybody gets near to the exit, Maya gets concerned and starts causing trouble, saying, no, 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 stay in the trap. Either by fear, if you go too close to the spiritual path, you'll be in trouble, or by temptation. If you come this way, I'll give you a new iPhone. iPhone off. You see? It's either way, whatever works. And so you can have the iPhone and God. But if you have a choice, God is the creator of the iPhone, the creator of the iPhone. And so this happened to Master when he was wanting to, after he had gone to the Himalayas, you may remember, he trying to get to Rishikesh, and he got caught by his brother, Ananta. And on the way back to Calcutta, they stopped at this home of this pundit, and he and his son started attacking Master, trying to convince him that his karma was such that he could not be a monk and find God. Why were they trying to convince him? Because the brother had asked them. Isn't that funny? It's sort of like 2 + 5 is, say it's 8. 8! 8. Definitely. Kandipa. I mean, 2 + 5 is 7, no matter what planet you're on. 2 tentacles plus 5 tentacles is still 7 tentacles. That's as many tentacles as there are in that case. And so there's no way around it. And so they were after him, attacking him, one thing after the other. And he said, if you, basically, if you go off and do this, you will go further into sin, and it will take you, meditation and all these things is a waste, and it will ruin your life. And Master said, Krishna's immortal reply sprung immediately to my lips. Even the worst of sinners, by steadfast meditation on me, speedily comes to me. And it's such a beautiful statement, because you say, even the worst person that they meditate, they will quickly come to God. And so they don't even, he doesn't even say, but steadfastly, no, even the worst of sinners, by steadfast meditation on me. And you can start out not even meditating on God if you can't. There's that story of Valmiki that they were saying, look, you say Ram, There's more to the story, but eventually this, bandit. So he says that he is. You have to wonder a little bit of, sometimes people are a little hard on themselves. But anyway, he says, I was terrible. And they said, say Rama, Rama, Rama. And he just said, I can't say such a name. And then so they said, okay, we'll try something closer to harm. Say Mara, death or killing. That's easy. Mara, 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 which becomes Rama, 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 Rama. And so any effort, any direction, this is a helpful thing for us in case you find yourself stealing from people on the highway. No, no. Hopefully that doesn't apply. But it's helpful in other ways that even any kind of effort to try to direct our mind in a positive way, any way at all, even honestly, even an effort to direct our mind. Sometimes I remember once Darmini and I got up to go somewhere, went out to go somewhere on a Monday morning, and Mondays are a bit difficult when you've had a big weekend. And we're, I don't know, it was around lunchtime, and she was looking at me and she said, "You're still in bed. Not even you're asleep, you're tired. You're in bed." I thought, I think I am. Yeah, it's sort of, just I wasn't able to bring myself into the present moment, and we can have that with just too much subconscious living. So taking time to, this is one reason why meditation is so helpful, and a daily meditation is so helpful, is because we stop and we intentionally, we pray to God, we try to put our mind on God. Directing our awareness directs the energy, and the energy, it also increases the flow of energy. Awareness, or to put it another way, energy always follows our awareness. So what we put our awareness on, our awareness through our eyes, what we look at, sure, but also what we put our mind on, what we think about, the energy goes in that direction. So we should always, no matter what happens, direct our attention upward, direct it to God, direct it to the good. Suppose we've made a big mistake. We can say, well, I haven't yet succeeded, as Swamiji said, rather than, oh, I failed. Say, I haven't yet succeeded. One more try, another try. I'll keep going. I know I can change. I know, suppose we've done something that is a mistake and causes us pain. We can say, let me remember how this pain feels so that I can not do it again. Let me use it as a motivation. And if it does happen again, I will be patient and gentle with myself so that I can get out of there, out of this habit, for example. Master said, if you say, oh, I'm through, I'm terrible, then God can't help you. He said he's right there ticking in your heart, but he can't help you. Why? Because we close off to God when we affirm too strongly, I'm terrible. And part of it is the terrible, and part of it is the I. I am so terrible. Can I help you? No one can help. What about God? No, he can't help. God could create a whole extra solar system for us to play in if he wanted to, or a galaxy. There's a lot of things he can do to solve our little problem with the financial year end or whatever it was, the missing invoice. There's a lot that he can do. So not getting too caught up in thinking, no, my problems are intractable, unsolvable. They are. But part of the hypnosis is that if it doesn't work right away, then it will never work. That is a false thought. And it's, easy to disprove. So we want to keep trying, keep going, knowing that this is our true nature. We're just trying to return to who we actually are, not, as I said earlier, rising up out of the mud, trying to claim, may I please have a citizenship in the heavenly kingdom? No, you don't belong. I knew it. Sorry. Carry on with your party. It's not that way. They're saying it's about time. We have a seat saved right for you. Where have you been? And this is interesting also because as I said earlier, the religions, the true teachings of the religions say that we are children of the light. But what's interesting about that too is that it's not only in religion, as I've mentioned before, and as I'm sure all of you know, there are many people who undergo near-death experiences. These are not voluntary. I'm not asking you to sign up after satsang, but they nearly die and then they come back. And so many of them say that this someone spoke to me there, and they were so loving, so accepting, so patient, and saying, you're a wonderful being, and just you may need to go back to learn some more lessons, but be that. None of them said, oh, nee, ugh. you know, no one sort of, when they arrived at the gates, knocked on the door and no one answered, and said, "Oh," there was none of that. They were always welcome. They were always received. They were not left waiting at the airport. Nobody come to pick them up. And so there was one man who saw his life in a whole sort of, it was like a movie screen all around him. And the person greeting him said, "Show me how you have loved." That's another thing they say, is that they think that what is going to show up in their life review is all the trophies, the prizes, the awards. Maybe their LinkedIn profile will appear on the screen. No. It's saying, how have you loved? How have you given love? How have you loved me? How have you shared love with others? And so this man, seeing the screen, saw there was showing on this part of the screen an episode where he had been kind, and right over here there was one showing where he had not been kind, and so he sort of pointed at that one while kind of blocking the other one. And he said the Savior was amused, that the person who was with him was amused that he would do that. Why not laugh? I mean, if we laugh and we feel good, why wouldn't the angels laugh? It brings joy. And so we want to uh, remember that these are sort of like, even you could say, field testimonials. It was one thing when back in the 1970s, there was only one book on the subject, Life After Life. And it was meaning as opposed to life after death, life after life, that you continue on living. And so this was assembled by a physician. But since then, and like I said, now there are so many videos. If you look up near death experience or NDE, and so many people saying the same thing. And what's even more interesting to me is that it's not even the videos now only, it's the comments that you'll see people saying, "This happened to me. I hit my head, fell into a swimming pool." And, I mean, there's so many new testimonials. It also is helpful because it seems rare. There are people here in our Sangha who have had this experience before they came to us. It's not part of like the level 4 class or something. And one man, it was this reason why he took up Kriya Yoga, is because he was living a very worldly life, a very successful life. And when I say worldly, I don't mean bad. I mean just focused on the world. My happiness comes from the world. And, om, but the world. And so he died on the operating table. He had an experience like that. He was told, go back, and he was so upset, which is what people commonly express. They feel so joyful, so free, so accepted, so aware, and they just don't want to go back to this life. But they said, no, you have to go. And he said, so the first thing he did was to try to learn to meditate, to find a way to recapture that joyful feeling that he had had. And so the you could say, well, this isn't quite fair. Here I am meditating and studying these things and practicing them and trying to live a good life, and I'm waiting for the vision of God, and here somebody else just walks out in front of a lorry and gets to find all this realization and things. But that perception changes people, almost all of them. I mean, well, if it didn't change them, we probably wouldn't see their video. So who knows? But the ones we see, it changes them. It changes their life. That's one proof that it's a super conscious experience, is that it changes them going forward. Not only it maybe what they do in their life, some people have miraculous physical healings through that kind of an experience, which also is a further proof of its power. But the uh but it doesn't necessarily elevate them in wisdom any more than they are. I mean, in other words, it's not a shortcut. And I don't mean that in a critical way. I mean that it's fair. We all have the consciousness we have, and we all perceive according to that consciousness. And certainly having an experience like that opens people up and helps them to see further, and it would do the same for us, I'm sure. But there was one woman, it was very touching. She's God received her. She was so happy to be well and safe and all these things. And there were sort of different experiences and sort of conversations she had that were educational about the nature of her life. And so basically, after an introduction, she said, suddenly I was alone with this being who I felt was God. And God said, what if it would be just you and me? And she said, what? What if it would be just you and me? And she said, oh, well, but I have my children and I'm concerned about them. And she said, God smiled, God understood. And then they talked about her children a little bit. And then he said, what if it would be just you and me? And not quite seeing the pattern yet, she said, well, I do have some things I'd like to accomplish in this world, because I don't know if he said you're going back, but I was working on that resume and I'm working on this job, and I might get the promotion next month or something, and just things like that. He smiled. He didn't go, just okay. And just and then later again, what if it would be just you and me? And she didn't have words at that time. But even in telling the story, you could see that she was it was kind of a puzzle that God sent. But for a yogi, one who seeks union, what if it would be just you and me? Oh, I mean, when I heard that, I just thought, and it was beautiful because he was giving her the teaching. And even though she wasn't quite ready for it, I'm not saying I would be ready for it, just intellectual knowledge that, yes, that's what I want, even that pull. We still have things we have to work on. But we do know that that's what we want, because that's where the greatest joy comes from. It's that simple. Why yoga? Because ananda. Why union? Because joy. It's just really that simple. Master Swamiji made the point. Sometimes people will be seeking love in this world, is the example he used. I would like love. I would like love from this person. I have done this wonderful thing. I would like everyone to love it and to love me by extension, or at least to be polite and to smile. And he said, but why? Why do we seek love? Is it so that we can keep track of it on our love score app, and that we can have 65 loves, not likes, but loves, 65 loves. And then we see our friend, and the friend said, hey, I just got 32 loves. That's nice. I remember when I had 32. He said, it's not abstract. It's not intellectual. It's because we seek that feeling of love. I mean, imagine eating if you couldn't taste. And if you've ever had a very bad flu or something like that, it's so odd. It's almost unpleasant to eat without being able to taste, just sort of like you're chewing on paper or something. And it's that same thing. I mean, imagine sleeping and waking up not feeling refreshed. Many of us have that experience at times. You feel almost cheated. Hey, I gave you 6 hours or 7 hours. I got nothing. And, God says, well, you won't have a heart attack today, so at least count yourself lucky. But beyond that, I feel terrible. And so it's that thing. What would it mean to be loved unless we felt it? What if somebody in Zimbabwe has your picture on a wall and they love you? And it doesn't help. It's that feeling. And even if someone tells you, I love you, I love you, I love you, smack. Again, it's only that feeling, and that feeling of love we can seek in God, that we can seek in meditation. In other words, it's like being able to enjoy the food without having to eat it, getting refreshed without having to sleep. And in this case, feeling that love from God that doesn't depend on someone else. Why? Because it's not dependable when it depends on someone else. Is it dependable when it depends on us? The person we may hold closest in the world give us one headache and one pain in the leg, and that person comes and does something to irritate us. And what do you do that for? Can't you see? I'm in pain. We're not reliable in that way. Why should we ask anyone else to be? You can say, well, I am more reliable. No, we're not. We're not making comparisons. We are trying to do what works. That is one motto of yoga. Do what works. They say one definition of insanity is to keep repeating the same activity expecting a different result. Every time this happens, I get in an argument, but maybe this time it'll lead to happiness. Never. Speaking of which, and I wanted to mention this a little bit later, but I'll mention it now. The planets are doing kind of weird things right now. And I don't know if you've noticed the temperature outside, but it's a little different than it used to be in December. So we are in the hottest months with Saturn and Mars on Thursday, April 11th. Is that Thursday or Wednesday? Thursday. On Thursday is when they are together in the sky for everyone on Earth. Your friends on outside the solar system, it's fine. But for the rest, all of us here, Saturn and Mars are together. So it may be a little tense. Why? Because Mars wants to move, wants to explode, and Saturn says, you are not allowed. And so they clash. So you might want to just stay home the whole day and in bed. Anyone knocks on your door, don't answer for their safety. But, or again, what does it mean? As Dharmini has said, the energy wants to have a fight. It's dying to have a fight. Any misunderstanding is desperate to be escalated. One thing that a friend of ours said recently was, I was sitting at home and the friend said there was no one at home with me to fight with. So I started fighting with myself. You know, you shouldn't think that. Well, I do think that. Well, you shouldn't think that. It's not right of you. Well, who says? Who, you know, that's the way the energy is desperate, as she said, to push us. And I was talking with her about it, and it's like everyone, we had this thought, everyone is walking around saying, where is my detonator? You know, like in the cartoons, the plunger that you push down to explode the dynamite. Just, I'm looking for my detonator because I just want to blow something up. And so it's a time when you're entreated that, you know, this grenade would look so much better without the pin. And so don't, I remember one movie, I think it was a Bollywood movie anyway. I was on an airplane and the person next to me was watching and I just caught it from the court and the guy said someone threw a grenade at someone and he just picked it up and he threw it back and then it blew up and they were victorious. And he said, how did you do that? He said, he said, oh, I thought it was a custard apple. And I thought, only in India would the joke make sense. You have to know what a custard apple is. So, anyway, fantastic. So, when you see things that look like custard apples on Thursday, they are not. Okay. So, just be very careful. Why? Because it's not worth it. It's the energy trying to push. Now, you could say, is that superstitious? I don't believe the planets affect me. That's fine. I'm not saying they do. All I'm saying is when you feel like reaching for the dagger, the knife, to pause and say, let's talk on Friday. You know, because why not? If we feel really upset or really hurt or someone else has fun stabbing us, then to say, look, it's just a bad time right now. Plus, it's hot. So let me just give this person the benefit of the doubt. Let me not take it too personally and just wait until things calm down a little bit. If it's a real issue, then of course it is good to talk about it. But as Swamiji said, don't talk right away when you're still upset, but do talk. So not don't talk, talk, but wait a little bit until things are calmer. Because often the person, when they see you, they'll be looking for round two. And when you don't put up your fist too, they say, you know, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have acted that way. You know, they know. And so often, so keep this in mind. So as I was saying, these energies, they influence us and we move in a direction that we wouldn't if we could just act according to our choice. And even that choice gets colored sometimes by these energies. So just hang in there. I wanted to just close with this thought. In the beginning, we have to keep in our mind that we are children of the light, especially if we or from our growing up have gotten a different message that we're not. And as I said, these near death experiences also add kind of empirical evidence, evidence through not experiment, but experience of other people. And it's compelling if you see them talking about their experience on the video, because there they are talking about it. You go, wow, this person really believes what they're saying. I can at least say that. It's really fascinating that way. But still, just to deepen our own belief that we are children of the light. So after a certain point of meditating, I think you start to feel that. Because in the beginning with me, it was more affirmation. I had to tell myself, I am a child of the light. And part of it was a relief because I had always felt it must be true, but somehow I had gotten a different message through my life experience up to that point. And I was talking with someone recently who is new on the path, and I was saying something like, well, after all, we're children of the light. And the person said, well, I don't know. I don't know if I am. And then I realized, oh my gosh, we do have to say that, because I was accepting it as a given, as a default. And then I had to remember when someone said to me when I was worried about something, she said, after all, you're a child of God. I saw my birth certificate. It, Appa does not say God, and so on. And but she was right. But and then when she saw me kind of hesitate, she said, well, in time you'll have to come to accept that. And she wasn't backing down. I mean, if you think so, if that's okay with you, I would say you're a child of God, but it's up to you. No, she's saying you are. And if you won't accept it, then you'll have to in time, because it's just the truth. And that helped me. But still, it takes time. When you meditate enough, you feel more, this is my nature. I mean, enough over a period of time, not just one meditation, but doing it enough of weeks, months, years. It's different for everybody, and it doesn't much matter. It just matters that we go, meaning when it happens, but that we go forward. But I had to comment on this because what I'm telling you right now is more what comes up at the beginning of the spiritual path. And I wanted to mention also what can come up later on. First of all, it's worth repeating what Prasanna read, where Jesus said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." And what's so wonderful about that statement is, well, so many wonderful things. One is that purity of heart is the criterion. And so we want to work on purifying our hearts, and that's something we can always do. And the more pure our hearts become, the stronger we become also, the more patient, the more forgiving. It doesn't mean we never get hurt. Swamiji said getting hurt is the price of loving. Because if we get hurt, we have two responses. We can close our hearts. I have locked this under steel and concrete so that I cannot feel the pain. And now I won't feel the pain anymore, which is good, except I cannot feel anything else either. That's the problem. And the other problem is it's like creating a building and sealing up a problem in the foundation. It's still there. Just because it's covered up and hard to get to doesn't mean it's not there. And so we have to work with that. And then just accept. When I heard his statement that way, when I heard him say that, I felt more peace, because I always thought if I was hurt, that was bad, that was wrong, that should not have happened. But it does happen. And if you're going to be open-hearted, sometimes you're going to be hurt, but hurt less than before. That's what happens. Or hurt for a shorter amount of time before you're able to recover. So there is still a benefit to all of this. Krishna says, seekers of union with the Lord find him dwelling in their own hearts. And that's partly what I meant, that the more you meditate, the more you seek the Lord, the more you find him dwelling in your heart, which is to say, you feel more joy, you feel more peace, you feel more happiness for no reason. You feel more energy also, because we're not shutting ourselves off. All of the things that people talk about even right away, doing this Hong Sa has helped me, doing this Kriya has changed me. And so keep that in mind. He says, but those who, lacking in wisdom, seek him with impure motives, cannot perceive him, no matter how much they struggle to do so. So people who seek him with impure motives, I mean, what do you think? God is looking through his little, omniscient, all-seeing eye, and he says, "Oh, you are seeking me, but with impure motives." And there's so many people seeking me with impure motives. My God, I'm sure he's happy if he sees anybody trying to seek him at all. Impure motives, fine. How many people are not even seeking God? You see, on one level, philosophically, you could say God is joy, and everything that any one of us is doing is trying to get some kind of joy or relief from pain. So, in that way, they're all seeking God. And as Master said, in the metaphysical sense, yes, I accept. I accept that that's true. But even here, they're not saying those who pursue happiness, though it could mean that, and I think it does mean that, but those who seek God with impure motive. So, what does that mean? It means we want to always purify our motives. Why are they seeking him with impure motive? What does Krishna say? Because they're dumb? Because they're bad? Because they're sort of grade B devotees, not grade A? No, he said lacking wisdom. Those who lacking wisdom seek him with impure motive. So, we want wisdom, which is understanding, perception of the truth. We want to know the rules of the game better so we can follow them. We want to live in the truth. For me, truth, when I was growing up, truth is what I sought. I wanted to know what was true. And if I held a thought that I saw or a perspective that I saw was untrue, I dropped it right away, or as right away as I could. And if I was arguing with someone and they said, "Well, I don't care if it's true, it's what I think," I mean, but what is true is what matters. And if you are in an argument with someone who feels that way, just let them be. Give them a coffee or something and tell them about a wonderful sale that's happening in T-Nugger so they'll go away. So the thing is that we we don't there's no point in arguing. And I don't mean there's no point in this person. I mean, don't approach it on this level. Just wait. But once people care what is true, that makes them start to seek God. Even if they're complete atheists, trying to find that truth will eventually lead them to the deepest level of reality. Certainly worked for me because I didn't start out believing in God at all. But so let us, leaving that aside, we've been on the path. We're meditating, we're practicing Kriya, we're trying to live better lives. And so it's not so much saying that, well, if I'm not perceiving God, it must be because I seek him with impure motive. That's what Krishna says. Remember, everything Krishna says is to encourage, not discourage. He's not saying, this is why you are so bad. That is never his point. And so to encourage. So let us, what would it mean to seek God with impure motives? Oh, I don't even like the word impure, but in other words, because it's sort of like, look, we're always doing the best we can. How do we do better? One way we can say is that I'm trying to, as I was saying earlier, I'm trying to share love with everyone. I'm trying to do things to please other people so that they can feel happy and therefore I can feel happy. And that's a good motive. But an even higher motive is to do things to please God. It will have the side effect of pleasing other people if they're open to it, or it may not. And displeasing people intentionally. God liked it. So I don't, if you didn't like it, they're too bad. God liked it. No, God didn't like it. God doesn't like unkindness, intentional harm. Definitely not. But to say, is what would Master want? What would Swamiji want? There was a friend of ours who was taking care of her father who was dying over a long period of time. And her friend said to her, um, why don't you come this weekend? Look, you have a nurse. She had a nurse also to help her. Why don't you just come out with us? Let's go skiing. You need a break. You know, you've been the caretaker, and the caretaker needs care also. If you've ever had to care for someone in your life, you know how you yourself need to get replenished also to keep going. And so, the nurse will be with him, it'll be fine. And she meditated. And in fact, she told me the story, and this was how she was using it to illustrate something else, which I'll mention, that she meditated because she thought it would be nice to go and get a break. So in meditation, she wanted to ask for guidance on this decision. She first got very centered and calm and tried to detach from preferences. I'd really like to go, so God, can you just give it the rubber stamp of approval? To just say, what I want is the truth. Or God, what I want is, sorry, whatever you want is what I want. So if you want this, good, because I want it too. But if you don't want it, then I don't want it either, because you don't. Try to separate from our attachment or our preference. And then meditate. And she held up one possibility, which was not going on the trip. And to her surprise, she felt a deeper calmness, a greater joy, a peace. You can sometimes, as Swamiji said, feel energy rising up the spine. This is you trying to use your intuitive perception, your intuition, to give you an answer that your mind can't see, but you can feel. And she felt that calmness, joy, rising energy. I don't know about the rising energy, but Swamiji said the rising energy. I don't know if she felt it, but I'm just wanting to be truthful. And then she held up the other possibility of going on the trip, and she felt hesitant. She felt the energy was blocked. She felt a little nervous. Swamiji said, you may feel the energy going down the spine. That's an indication of an intuitive no. And the answer is no. And so she decided to stay. And her friend said, what's the matter with you? You know, you're overdoing it. You don't have to like overcompensate. This is what I mean by she didn't act just to please her friends. Her friends, after all, were trying to please her. They were trying to help her. And I'm sure it was only out of their love for her that they were frustrated that she wouldn't accept their offer. I mean, they were good people. But still, her answer did not please them. But as you may have be able to guess, that weekend was the time her father left the body. And she was with him. And she was so glad. This was again after, I don't know, more than a year. I don't know how long it was. She was so glad that she'd had that guidance to be there with him. And so you can use this technique in asking for intuitive guidance, asking yourself, asking master, meaning asking your soul. That's what intuition, where intuition comes from or comes through, asking God, asking Guru, asking Swamiji for help. Why not? They're here to help us. They want to help us. And it's not cheating to get help. And but again, this was sort of 2 points in one. The point I wanted to make was she acted in order to please God, to please Guru. She felt this is what God and Guru were asking. What if she were wrong? That's what I thought I got, but I got the wrong message. That's okay. We're not responsible for doing the right thing always. We are responsible in a way for doing what we think the right thing is. In other words, you have to do what you think was right. If you find out it was wrong, no problem. We may have to still pay the fine if the police catch us. I'm sorry, I thought it was fine to park here. That happened to me. I was in Los Angeles. I was trying to park. The laws are very complicated there. You cannot park here. You can park here at all times except from 9 a.m. and never on Tuesday, after 4 p.m. on Wednesday. And I mean, it's all very tricky. I think it's just to increase the city's income from parking tickets. But so there was a sign that said no parking, and it was a very busy time. I was driving. I was new to the city. I was not very comfortable, and so partly it's just I want to stop this car and park it before I hit anybody or anyone hits me. And so so I everywhere it said no parking except this one place. Suddenly, there was a hint that there was this whole long street side completely empty. Anywhere to park. Think about it. Why was it empty? That didn't occur to me. So I just said, "Oh, great, perfect. I'll park here." And so we parked. My mother was visiting Los Angeles. We went into the restaurant. And then I realized I left my phone in the car. And so I went out to the car, and there was the police officer writing up the ticket. "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll move it. Once I have begun the citation, sir, I have to complete it." And just sort of, but there's no sign. And right behind him. It was partly covered by a tree branch or something. No parking ever, or whatever. So I said, and so again, I meant to do the right thing. I did try to follow the laws, but I didn't. And I got the ticket and I had to pay the price and the humiliation. And then I said, oh God, I'm just wondering now. I mean, took me so long to find this non-parking spot. Where am I going to find an actual parking spot? And he said, well, I've already written you the ticket, so you can just leave the car here. Okay. So anyway, I appreciated that. So remember, we are children of the light. Even the police officer said, here's your punishment, but so it's okay. It's okay. God is always saying that. It's fine. I love you. Come home to me now.